Welcome to the Bridge of Two podcast. Got to do the voice warm-ups, you know.
La 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 la.
Welcome back.
Oh, so we've started.
We've started.
Oh, well, welcome back, everybody.
We're glad to have you here.
Are we?
We're so glad.
Absolutely glad.
You've made it just in time for this episode.
Who, me?
No, the listener. You tuned in just in time to hear us talk about the fantasy and sci-fi worlds that we love and bring you a nerdcast of epic proportions. So,
and who knows? Maybe something that we don't love.
Yeah. Like Acolyte.
Maybe. Oh, yeah. Are you Acolyte? Acolyte? What is it?
I say Acolyte. I think they say Acolyte.
I think I literally say both.
They literally say Acolyte in the show.
I think
apparently.
I say both. So, do they say Acolyte in the show?
Yeah, I saw a clip of the Acolyte saying, no, he is an Acolyte, but he's also looking for an Acolyte or something.
You've lost me.
Or she.
Just like the
or
show.
they.
Do you know who
depending on what Disney character we're being attacked.
Do you know who the Smilo Ren character is? Yeah, I do have cats.
Right.
One's in the closet somewhere.
Okay.
Do you know who the Smilo Ren character is?
Yeah.
Have you seen the reveal?
I've seen parts of the fight,
which, mind you, was a really good fight.
And I need to see the whole thing because, yeah, it looked like it was really good. I didn't really see the reveal, like how the mask came off and that sort of thing. But I saw the guy. But I also I watched the show, so I have no idea who that character is in the context of the show. I know I expect he's someone that's been around the whole time.
A couple episodes. He's just like following May around, and you find out, oh, he's actually the master of the apprentice. I don't actually know who he's supposed to be. Her master. Yeah, her master, I guess.
But he's, I don't know. Anyway. But it's not done, right?
No, there's still 3 more episodes. Yeah. I'm going to completely withhold my judgment until it's completely done.
Yeah, well, yeah, I want to watch it just to process it, but
that lightsaber battle,
it's just hard.
I haven't fully seen the episode, but the scenes I've seen were really good, and
yeah, same here.
What I've heard, even from people who completely dislike the show, said that the lightsaber battle was very good. But then they said once they got back to story, it fell off again.
Yeah.
And there's like hokey stuff in there, but I mean, like it's Star Wars. There's always hokey stuff in Star Wars.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go. I'll watch all the episodes. Give it a try.
We should do it.
We should. Maybe, but instead of breaking it into episodes, let's do it. Well, we could break it into episodes. I
mean, we could just watch it and see. Because we may not feel like, depending on how we're feeling about it, we may not feel like breaking down
a whole episode or two.
A whole episode. Like,
yeah, maybe we'll do an episode on the show in general.
But we could do an episode or two, maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
I did hear that they did that thing in the 5th episode where they'll randomly have something happen that is like part of like old lore, like Legends lore. But it is not explained at all, and so no one understood it. And if anything, it seemed even more lore breaking because there's a part during the lightsaber battle where the Sith guy
headbutts it,
blocks a lightsaber with his gauntlet, and then headbutts another lightsaber, and the lightsaber shut off. Which I don't know. It's been a while since I've read anything about it, but apparently it's part of like lore. It's the cortosis mineral, which has been in lore since like the 90s apparently, or something like that. And it basically like deactivates lightsabers. And it's supposed to be up there with
and so that's in the helmet
and his gauntlet, and so that's how he was able to do that. But another thing is that's
never explained.
It's never explained. So people are watching this lightsaber battle and be like, "What in the world?" Because I thought, if you're just an average Star Wars watcher, lightsabers go through everything,
unless there's Beskar.
Beskar is supposed to be a little bit stronger than cortosis.
Okay.
I know cortosis. The only thing I know cortosis from is the Bane trilogy. Bane starts off on a cortosis mine. He works in a cortosis mine.
Okay.
And it's talked about
Poor
how
guy.
they're used in ships and they're used for armor for all these things. And it says it's supposed to, be strong against lightsabers. I never knew it shut them off.
So you're saying Bane was a blue collar
No, Bane was a
hard
slave.
worker. So even less than blue collar.
Yes, he was born. Not even was
Like
he,
an actual collar.
Not even was he a slave for doing something wrong. He was born into it.
Wow.
But a slave in
Good for him for making something.
a slave in the corporate way though, where like they're not actually slaves. They just owe money to this corporation, so they have to work it off. But the thing is, it's not even his own money.
They can never work it off, basically.
Much.
Man, but good for him.
Yeah, really made something of himself.
Yeah,
started a whole organization.
I mean, from nothing.
Well, destroyed a whole organization and started and rebuilt it in his own image. Look, Sith all come from somewhere. There's a reason. I mean, some of their philosophies aren't necessarily wrong.
Yeah.
Just
which ones?
just the way they act on them is usually not good.
Maybe that means the philosophy.
The strong must serve the weak, or no, the weak must serve the strong.
Yeah.
That first book goes really heavy into that.
That helps you with forgiveness.
It's literally how he like his whole basis of destroying the like Brotherhood of Darkness, which is the Sith Order there, is that the weak should serve the strong.
So like if he can overpower them, then they basically deserve it.
His whole philosophy is that they're all weak. The fact that they have banded together and made this a brotherhood where they're all equal makes them weak.
Oh yeah,
because he learns from old texts from like
equality is weakness.
Well, he learns from like the old texts from like Revan and Sith like that. I can't remember Exar Kun and stuff like that. He learns from their text, and like Revan's very outspoken on there should always be one head Sith headmaster.
Of course, Revan thinks that.
But then he also goes further. That's how the rule 2 becomes formed, because he goes further into like if you have more Sith under you, like if you have multiple apprentices, those apprentices will always band together to take you out, and then so the weak will always end up getting stronger. So then it ends up being there should always be 2. That's how Bane gets to the one master, one apprentice. And so
I'm not sure how to feel about this Bane guy. Like at first I was like, oh, he's oppressed, but then now it's like he turns around and what does he do?
I don't know.
Do an episode on that.
We should. Those books are great.
Is Bane good?
No. Gosh, no.
That's the episode title.
Is it Bane great?
click Bane.
Answer. No. All right. It's gonna be a 30-second podcast episode. It's question: is Bane good? No. All right. That's it, folks. But he's cool.
Wait a minute. But what about
his philosophy is interesting. I mean, there is a point in the book where he straight up just says he's just like, because someone says just like something about basic equality, like everyone can be strong or whatever, and then he's just like, but isn't it? Basically, he's just like, but it's true that there are people who are stronger than others, and shouldn't they be in charge? Basically,
Whoa, Bane.
He took the opposite approach of like a good person, of being like, instead of I'll use my strength to protect and serve, instead I'm going to use my strength to. Because I'm strong, I'm allowed to subjugate and use you, basically.
Right.
And he is strong. I mean, he destroyed the entirety of the Sith. He did a better job than the Jedi did.
With just his muscles.
Well, it's subterfuge.
Because he's strong.
Anyway.
That
being said, we'll watch the Acolyte and see. I'm going to keep it. It's going to, whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do it. What's new with you? To share.
I'm reading a new book. Started a new book. I finished the Red Rising trilogy.
Shout out to the author.
Crap, what's his name? I don't even have my phone on me, so I can't look it up. I'll figure it out later. We'll after the break, I'll come back and say.
You listeners, look it up. Send us a message.
Red Rising trilogy. Really, really, really good series. Now, there's more to it afterwards. There's like a 15-year time skip, or I think it's 15-year time skip into the next books, 10 or 15.
That's Blue Rising.
I hate you. But it was a really, really good, well done sci-fi book, but also very good at character development, characterization. The author did a really good job. A lot of action, but not too much action where it's just like constant. It's a lot of making you think too about certain things. And the story is completely told through a first person perspective of the main character. So Really good book.
So
really
it's
good
one,
series.
so it's one POV.
Yeah,
One time.
just him. So it's really good. And so you also get that internal monologue of what's going on in his own head, which really just enhances it because he's also the main character is a really good character, very nuanced, very just well fleshed out in my opinion. If you like sci-fi or you like those type of books, the first book is very reminiscent of like a Hunger Games or a Percy Jackson, and then you get into the second and third book and it just goes balls to the wall with things happening. It does a really good job of making one character a very, very good villain.
Okay.
I will say that. A really good villain. Like, I hated him and wanted him to die.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't spoil it if
I'm
he
not.
died.
I'm not. That's all.
Okay.
Say nothing more.
Okay, good.
But after that, I started reading The Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb.
Oh, right.
Which I didn't realize was written in like the 90s. A good old fantasy. Good so far. I'm having that issue where you finish a series that was really good and you start a new book or series and like the opening of a book is usually pretty slow.
Right.
Unless
takes a while to get into it.
Unless you read the prologue of Stormlight and then you're like, oh.
Right. And then you're like, yes, more.
I need more. But I'm finally starting to get to that point where like things are starting to kind of seem that they kind of start working together and it looks I'm enjoying it. I'm just going a little bit slower than I normally would, probably. So it's good. I'm enjoying it so far. Definitely classic fantasy.
Third person?
First person.
Oh, first person. Okay.
Yes,
like
the narrator is the character, and it's like I think the way it's written, it seems like he's writing a story about himself.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. So it's like past tense.
And I'm wondering if maybe once we get to like the second or third book, it'll catch up to where he's writing, but it might not.
Okay.
The whole trilogy might be written that way. We'll, I'll see. Because it's definitely this one is a trilogy, and then there's obviously more with the character. There's like I think a couple of trilogies. Okay. But this one's the Farseer trilogy.
Okay.
Fitz is the main character's name. Yeah, really good.
Fitz.
Yeah. Good. He's a bastard.
From a basket?
No, he's just a bastard.
Okay. So
just dropped off. So that pays big. Definitely very seems like it's gonna be a very depressed boy status like Kaladin. That's kind of the vibes I'm getting. He seems like he's had a pretty hard life and is gonna continue to have one.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, good. I'm enjoying it so far. Hey, anything that's like Kaladin.
Brooding. Maybe I know that I know Brandon Sanderson likes Robin Hobb, so maybe
she's gonna be at the.
Maybe there's a little bit of Kaladin.
They're gonna be at the
Dragonsteel.
They're gonna be at Dragonsteel. Mm-hmm. Yep. So that's actually
we will not be.
We will not be.
So
unfortunately,
don't go.
Just don't go because we won't be there. We won't have our own booth.
Exactly.
Actually, seeing that she was gonna be there, I think it's a she. Hope I'm not misgendering.
Yeah.
That made me think of reading it. So because it's one I've wanted to read for a while, and obviously it was in between books. So, but yeah, it's good. I'm enjoying it so far.
Cool.
Other than that, I have beaten the base game for Elden Ring.
Nice.
I beat the final bosses.
What was your high score?
Like 40,000 deaths.
That's a high score. Is that how?
That's how your score is rated in Elden Ring.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I know. Not that many. Probably
Okay. I was like, wow.
Probably close to like 50. I don't know. Maybe 1,000. Not as much. I don't know. Yes.
Nice.
Started the DLC.
Okay.
Which is like 10 times harder than the base game.
I heard that.
So that's great.
I watched some of Brandon Sanderson getting wrecked.
That was fun.
That's awesome.
I watched a little bit of it. I didn't watch all of it because I hadn't played any of it yet and I didn't want to be too spoiled.
Right, on the tactics and stuff.
At this point now I can probably sit and watch it because I got.
Did you fight the giant like on fire tree thing?
No, God, no. The one that's just walking around the open world? No,
yeah,
of course
not. Miserable.
No, you're not supposed to fight it right away.
He broke off of that. He was
I don't think you're supposed to fight it right away.
Okay.
I have beaten 2 main bosses so far.
Okay.
Spoilers for Elden Ring DLC, by the way, if anyone has not played, but like they have new weapon subclasses or subtypes because there's obviously you have like straight swords, great swords,
right,
curved swords. They have these different subtypes. Well, they've added new ones, so they've added like a light great sword, which is basically your Geralt from The Witcher.
Okay,
very like fluid movement of fighting. Mm-hmm. The other one I found is they have a fist type weapon, like a martial arts weapon.
Oh, okay.
which is really cool.
Weird.
Yeah, it is weird, but it's really cool.
Was it very fast?
Very fast, very flowy.
Does it do anything with your stamina? Like,
I don't think so.
Seems like, yeah. Does it use a lot of stamina?
No more than any other weapon would.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. There's another one I had. I can't remember what it was.
Do you yell Fist of Fury when you use it?
I haven't used it yet, so.
Oh, okay.
I've been using the light great swords.
Okay.
One of the bosses has 2 that dual wield, and they use magic and fire.
Okay.
So I've been using those because they're just fun. And the light great swords are cool. So yeah, that's been a lot of fun playing through that. Really good. It's hard, but I mean, I expect everything from FromSoft to be hard. So
right.
Definitely probably the hardest I've played from them, but not impossible.
Yeah.
So that's been a lot of fun.
Cool.
Playing that, and then pretty much just a couple of the games here and there that I've been messing around with. Dragon Age.
What? Which one?
Origins.
Okay.
The first one. I want to play through all of them before the fourth one comes out this year.
Okay.
I don't know if I'll be able to finish it by then, but...
Did you see the teaser for the fourth one?
Mm-hmm.
What'd you think?
I thought it looked cool.
Okay.
I'm not as nitpicky on the combat as a lot of the fans are, because I didn't play Origins to start. Like, I didn't start off with Origins. I actually started off with Inquisition.
Same here. I actually have only played Inquisition.
I wish they kept the tactics portion in, because I do enjoy that in Origins as well as Inquisition.
Okay.
Being able to pause and have that whole tactical view. Which I'm pretty sure in this fourth one, you're not even going to be able to control your companions. Which is a little upsetting. But, like I said, I'm not too worried about it. I like Dragon Age for the story and the lore. I like the world. So, as long as that's good. Lore. And if the combat's fun, then I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
You know, I like just a good old RPG.
Right.
But I'm enjoying Origins so far. The problem is I've played half of it before, and so I kind of know a lot what's happening. So I'm having a hard time getting through it because I know all that's happening.
Right.
To get caught back up to where I was. But I'm enjoying playing. I made an elf warrior to start the first one off. Yeah, so that's been
the elf.
Yeah, pretty much knife ears. So that's been fun. And that's pretty much, I mean, not sci-fi fantasy, but I watched Oppenheimer.
Oh yeah,
which was really
borderline.
I mean, it's like fantastical.
Yeah,
it shouldn't have happened. It's science.
Yeah.
Really good movie. I'd never seen it before. I was kind of on a whim, threw it on. I just didn't want to watch YouTube anymore, and I was just chilling and couldn't think of anything to do, so I threw it on, and it was really good.
Yeah.
So I was very impressed with it. The sound design, the acting was phenomenal. I like the main actor, Cillian Murphy.
Yeah, I do too. He was really good in it. I mean, Emily Blunt was good in it, and Robert Downey Jr.
was good in it. Yeah, they were all really good. It was a good movie.
Matt Damon just, randomly.
I know. I didn't even realize he was in the movie.
It's like the second movie. The second Christopher Nolan movie where Matt Damon's just randomly in it. Yeah.
Yes, I actually really, really did enjoy that movie. That's about it, yeah.
Were you converted to communism?
Definitely. You know me, communist all the way. I was about to...
I love the music from that movie. It's very, very good. Did you know the composer, his wife, is a world-renowned violinist?
Really?
And she's doing the solo violin. That's like that theme that happens. It's like Oppenheimer's theme. Mm-hmm. She's playing that. That's her. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Just fun facts, Josh.
Fun facts with Allred.
Yeah. So.
What about you? What you been up to?
Oh,
I know you're playing Helldivers a lot still.
Yeah.
I see you on there.
Yeah, pretty much just that. Which I don't know. It's fun to stick with the major orders and see how they kind of craft the story and stuff. They added a new biome, which is fun. It's a swamp biome. They coincided with their latest war bond, war pass, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, which has you're literally have armor that has no sleeves. So you just have just your muscles and
that's funny.
Tattoos and stuff. And those armors, they have a passive that's called Peak Physique, and it's like your weapon handling is like really good. So all the heavy weapons, that when you turn the reticle like trails behind where the middle of your screen is normally, they like turn a lot faster. So it's like you can use like heavier build weapons and use them quicker and stuff. It also makes your melee damage like 50% more.
Okay.
Also comes with throwing knives. Ooh, they're super powerful.
Love me a throwing knife.
But the biome's fun because it's like Vietnam, like it's like or Florida. Like actually reminds me a lot of Florida because it's just raining.
You know, the two similar, Florida or Vietnam.
Well, it's just like raining, swampy. You know, lots of trees. Can't see. You know, a lot of your airstrikes and stuff will get like hit and messed up by trees and stuff. That's
kind of cool. That's a cool new. I'm glad they added a new biome.
Yeah, it's fun. It's kind of fun. The visibility is just bad. That's the only thing about it. Is that you're like,
I feel like the visibility is always bad in like most of them.
Yeah, sometimes you have stuff that messes with visibility and weather and stuff, but it's fun still. I just like slowly work my way up to with the war bonds. I figured out how to like farm super credits.
Okay.
The in-game currency. Mm-hmm. So I've did that a little bit to push myself over the edge enough to like spend $2 to get the rest of the credits needed to unlock a war bond recently.
Nice. Nice.
But anyway, it's fun. It's funny actually, Clark, his son is playing now.
Oh, okay.
And then there's another guy who I went to church with, my previous church, and his son plays. So sometimes I'll be jumping on and I'll be playing with, you know, a parent and like 2 kids. It's pretty funny.
That's funny.
But so that's been fun. I've been doing a little bit of writing for the video game that I mentioned.
Nice.
So like writing dialogue and mainly dialogue for the tutorial.
How different is it writing like say a book compared to writing like dialogue for a video game?
I think that the way I think of it is more like I think of scenes, and I think of it almost like a script or something, you know, because instead of writing just like heavy description and internal thoughts of the character and things like that, you're just like you're writing what's supposed to happen, you know, like the character, this like, or like I'm actually writing like just because it's easier for me to think through the dialogue if I actually, you know, have like this NPC tutorial character is like saying this and then this highlights on the screen, you know, just helps me think through. So I'll write that action, you know, I'll write that, you know, they're prompted to press the button to interact, and they pick it up, and then the next line of dialogue, you know, the guy telling him to try and attack something, and then the next line of dialogue saying like, oh, good job, you know. So it's like, I don't know, it's definitely different. But
now has he, the game's an RPG, right?
Yeah, it would be an RPG.
Has he like, is there already established lore for the world, or is he asking you to help establish lore for the world? Yes,
he's asking me to establish lore. Okay. So I'm using my book.
Oh, heck yeah. So are you going to do
literally
like,
just use
are there going to be codex entries in the game and items like that?
I mean, I think I would assume so. I haven't gotten that. We haven't gotten super far into that. Like he's working on dialogue, the dialogue system. He's working on NPC AI and stuff and trying to make the NPC interact. Like it's there's so much stuff like down to like little details that takes so much work to do. You know, like he was working on making it so that the AI, whenever someone's talking in world, like not in a dialogue scene, but they're just talking like as you walk by or something. He was like working on getting their mouths to move.
Okay.
Like get that triggers, and then their mouths move when they're talking. So like that was like that. Like for example, something he's been working on that takes a lot of work. He's like, it took me so long to get.
Can only imagine.
But you know, we like doing the writing. You know, helps me think through like things we need to figure out. You know, like like we were just talking about the skill tree, because there's going to be a skill tree, and we're talking about making that mesh with the lore, you know, because the way the magic system works in my world is like you have to form a bond with a stone to be able to use that type of magic. So it's not like you would just automatically have the full tree, because you would, unless you have a bond with a stone. Like if you have like 4 elements, and the skill tree is somehow like a circle of the elements, you know, and then you've got these abilities, and then you wouldn't want them all to be unlocked, you know, right away. So
how does it feel knowing that like your book and world that you've been working on for years might be a video game? To an extent.
I was conflicted with it, the idea, a little bit at first, because of just the idea of how do I want this to be, this story and world and all that. How do I want this to be? Even though I've did Mithril and that short story, but still very small. That's a super small subset of people have been exposed to that. So like, if this was something that would get big, you know, how would I feel about it being, you know? But I ultimately was just like, exposure is exposure, you know, like I could see it helping me either way. Like,
oh, for sure.
You know, if you help, it could help if it does really well, it could help with doing like indie publishing, because then there's like this game that's out there that people might be aware of, that if there's like a book for it, people might want that, you know.
Well, I mean, that's a big thing with a lot of games like Mass Effect, Dragon Age, Halo. They all have books that spawned out of the video game,
right,
that are very popular,
right. Yeah. So
you know, and if you have the writer for the lore, the one that's writing the book, that's even more so, right. That's awesome.
I mean, it's just it's fun to, it's also fun to collaborate on it, you know, with someone else. You know, the Expanse series was started out as a
tabletop game,
MMO.
Oh, an MMO. That's right.
They're working on it as to be an MMO, and then something fell through with it, and then they were working on it as a tabletop. And then, well, it was actually one of the writers, and then the other guy that's the other part of James, I say Corey, was like, why don't we write a book series, you know, together? And you know, so like I was reading a little bit about the history of that, and it made me think about this opportunity. So it's like it feels like it could be a really cool thing. You know, I'm just kind of like taking it as it is right now, you know.
I'll be really curious to, as you go along and you know, pick through your thoughts as far as like going about world building and fleshing out the world, as opposed to like, because in a book there's, you know, either exposition or just like, I mean, you're writing, right? You know, so there's easier, it almost, to me, like writing a book, it almost seems kind of easier to flesh out a world, right? Because you can just write it down. Obviously it has to fit, but you can write it down. But then like with games, let's say, like you can't just have a character sit there and have 30 minutes of exposition, because you're going to lose your player, you know, because gameplay is important. So like that's why a lot of people do flesh out with like codex entries and stuff like that. I'll be curious to see how you handle that and how you feel about that. You know, I've just been thinking about it because, like, you know, that graphic novel always had the back of my head. Yeah. I always go back and think about it. And like, I was thinking recently, just like, how would I go about in an art way, like a graphic novel way, fleshing out a world with world building? Right. Because obviously with comics, it's art and then there's dialogue. You don't have a lot of exposition. Right. And you also don't have those paragraphs that you can write in a book, you know. So I was even thinking about how would I flesh that out to where people would understand. Right. You know, and I'd be curious how the game side of it, how that works out and how it feels, you know. Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. Definitely
right now we're just trying to focus on like this demo, like small version of it. So like a tutorial and then like a mission.
Mm-hmm.
And like the goal is to get that done and then try and either use it, if it's polished enough, use it to try and do a Kickstarter kind of thing, or do like pitch it to like a publisher or something. So like that's
Does he have a I guess you're the one doing the lore, but like is there like a specific I guess it would be kind of like a style, like a grimdark or like a high fantasy or but like a steampunky type of vibe, like the vibe as far as like that.
Yeah, it's definitely like it's definitely more high fantasy vibe, you know. Like he's working with a lot of the assets he's working with are things that were either, you know, not too expensive because it's like he's financing himself, everything he's made so far. So like, you know, things that you can get on the Unreal Engine like store, they'll have like giveaways, they'll have free stuff. They have like, I think every month they give away some free stuff. And so like, you know, he's cobbling together all these different assets that feel, you know, coherent enough to work together in a game. But it's definitely more of a fantasy, just a classic fantasy kind of vibe.
Not like a dark fantasy or like a grim noir fantasy.
No, I mean the lore. I mean, like that is, you know, my lore is a little darker. I mean, because you're dealing a lot with you're fighting like embodiment of darkness, and it infects other things and stuff like that. So that may take on, like, that style may come through, or that tone may come through more as we, you know, refine what's there, you know. He's still learning a lot. The main.
I was just curious. I'm just curious from an artist perspective, like what the game would look like.
Yeah, I mean, like it's, you know, Unreal Engine going for more realistic. You know, it's not super stylized. You know,
sweet. Well, that's awesome. Can't wait to keep hearing about that and follow along with that.
Yeah.
Also, shout out real quick to my buddy Ian.
Yeah.
Who is an avid listener of the podcast, listens every week or every other week. Texted me after last episode, and he's just like, "You have a friend who makes video games. If you're interested, just talk to me." He literally texted me.
Oh, he makes video games?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Or yeah. I think he works for, Ian, I'm so sorry if I get this wrong. I know he was working for a graphics card company, but he might actually he definitely went to school for it.
Okay.
Like, he knows game development.
Huh.
Ian, you can shoot me a text when this episode comes out, yelling at me if I got anything wrong. But yeah, shout out to him, because he literally after the episode dropped and I got a text when I woke up, I had a text when I woke up, and he was just like, "Dude, if you are ever curious, just talk to me."
Nice.
So shout out to him.
I wonder if he'd be open to like giving some advice as well, because sure, it would be welcome.
Ian, you heard it here. He's reaching out. Shoot me a text
through podcast form.
Unfortunately, he lives in Tennessee now, but
right,
because he moved.
Where the games are, or what?
Oh, it's just where his company had him go, I guess.
Right.
So
that's cool. I didn't know that.
Well, what do you say we take a break and then actually get to our actual topic?
Episode 1 concluded here. We'll be back. Arrakis. No, that's not his voice. My Arrakis. I do.
Harkonnen. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
His voice. Can't do it.
I'm not even going to attempt it. Well, welcome back from our break.
Back.
I went to the restroom and we got ourselves some coffee.
Yeah, that's so if you're wondering why it took so long.
Yeah, the extra
5 seconds.
We're to put extra 5 seconds onto the break time. Welcome back. So we're going to talk about Dune. Finally.
The 1970
the OG movie.
Oh,
no, we're going to talk about the new Dune that's come out. We're going to start with part 1.
Yes, we are.
We did watch it when it first came out in theaters years ago.
During the pandemic. When we weren't supposed to, but we did it anyway.
We did. And you know what? We're still here today.
That's right.
A miracle.
Take from that what you will.
It's a true miracle. But with Dune 2 coming out a couple months ago, and I've been wanting to rewatch the first one anyway, we decided to rewatch it and do an episode. So
it's relevant.
It's relevant-ish.
There's like a Dune show coming on soon, right?
Really?
There's like is it I don't think it's HBO. I think it's Showtime or something.
I feel like sometimes
it's a prequel show. It's like it's about the Bene Gesserit like 10,000 years before, or maybe 1,000 years. I wonder if
was it going to be during the, I don't remember what it's called, but the war with the robots.
Maybe the AI thing.
I could see that being cool.
Yeah, something to do with the Bene Gesserit.
I have noticed it's a common theme where like movies will do well, and then some sort of
let's do a show.
Whatever will be, like, let's do a show, and then the shows end up being garbage because they should just stay a movie. For example, I'm gonna say it again: Star Wars are doing too many shows.
Yeah,
Obi-Wan Kenobi probably shouldn't have been a show; it should have been a movie.
Right. Preach.
But
the actual budget.
Yeah, but that's neither here nor there, though.
We're not bitter.
Only a little bit. But Dune, on the other hand, is a great movie
with a budget.
I'm just gonna phenomenal movie. Loved it. Phenomenal sound design. Phenomenal special effects, acting, yeah. All of it. I really enjoyed.
Very good.
Really, really enjoyed the first movie, and the second one. I'll go throw that out there. But the first movie, I really, really enjoyed it. Yeah. It made me end up reading the book because I hadn't read the book yet. But it made me read, and I enjoyed the book so much I ended up getting the special copy,
right,
with the blue pages. It looks really cool. Now, mind you, it's been a while since I've read the book, so I don't remember everything. So I'm not gonna be able to sit there and tell you what the difference is between the book and the movie.
No, for you sticklers out there,
just know that I've read it. Okay,
he's read it. You're our expert.
Oh no,
you're the lore expert.
Oh no.
Well, how should we start?
What are your initial thoughts on the movie? Watching the movie?
Well, my initial thoughts watching the movie in theaters several years ago was, this is so good for like the genre of like fantasy, sci-fi, like space opera, you know, like just it's executed so well. It's so sincere, you know, it's not like this is a crazy sci-fi movie. It's like it very much immerses you in this world, and it spends a lot of time on world building, but it's also very sort of efficient. There's like very little dialogue at the beginning of the movie, and yet everything you get is carries so much information with it, you know, from the dynamic with Paul and his mother, even the before that with the prologue. You kind of get this prologue from the perspective of the people of Arrakis, with Zendaya's character doing the narration, which I was thinking about that when I was watching it. Like, that opening really tells you this is a movie that's about, it's not about a person. Like, it's about this whole, like, a big immersive world, you know, because it doesn't start out with the main character, you know, it starts out with this conflict, you know. Well,
the main character of the movie is the planet.
Is Arrakis.
I would say Arrakis.
Yeah.
Dune.
See, there it is. There's our expert. That's why we have you here.
I mean, that's just what I would assume.
Yeah.
I mean, it's called Dune. You know, it is about this planet.
Right,
and yeah, I mean, obviously you have Paul and you have all the characters.
It's not called Atreides.
But I mean, I feel like, at least for the first book, I haven't read any more of the books than the first one. I plan on it, but
there's more.
There are more. I'll read all the ones written by Herbert himself, not the ones written by his son, because I heard those are bad. It does. I mean, you got the whole everything. And it's explained in the movie, I think, during the prologue. Like, everything in the galaxy at that point, like space travel, all that, is like revolves around this spice that's found only on Dune.
Yeah. It's the most valuable substance in the galaxy or universe or whatever. Yeah. So I love it.
But yes, I agree with you. It does a really good job of immersing you without being too, without trying too hard to immerse you, if that makes sense. Because there's some like sci-fi has got a bad habit of it where they try to really, really go in with this good special effects and this action or this whatever. Whereas I think Dune really does a good job of like, it has those good special effects, it has the good set design and all that, but it just really seems to try to immerse you in the story and in the world itself and the galaxy itself. I don't know. I feel like they just did a really good job with that with the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I do too. Yeah, I think that there's also like something about movies that trust the viewer, like that hold the viewer in a high enough esteem to like give them just enough for them to get what's happening and for them to be able to put the pieces together and things, and then also giving them like, there's a lot in Dune, you know, that you have to kind of wrap your head around, and it's a long movie.
Yes,
but it's all needed, you know, and rather than being like scared of like wearing out the viewer or whatever, like it took the time it needed in a lot of things, and it covered a lot of ground too. It's amazing,
and
like,
it doesn't feel like it rushes anything. I mean. I know that was some people's gripe with the movie when it first came out, was some people said it was slow.
Yeah.
Which to an extent maybe it can be. This second time around watching, I didn't think it was slow at all.
No, I didn't think so either.
I think maybe during the theaters I maybe initially thought it, but that's because for some reason, because I hadn't read the Dune book, I didn't really know exactly what it was about. I thought there might be more action because I'm used to sci-fi being very flashy action.
Right. But things feel slow when you don't know for sure where it's going.
Yes.
You know, and so then you're like, okay, now what? You know, like, what does that mean? But like, there is like a good bit of action. I mean,
but not only that, like, it's not slow if you pay attention to what's happening, because I mean, yeah, there are politics involved in it, and there's you know, specific dialogue, specific things happening that aren't necessarily action related, but are very important to the story.
Right.
And if you are engrossed in the story and in the world, which I feel like the movie does a good job of pulling you in, well, then the movie doesn't feel slow. It feels like it's building.
There's a quote. I can't remember. I'm going to look it up. It's in one of Paul's visions. Where the character, it's Janus. And he says, the mystery of life isn't a problem to solve, but a reality to experience. And there's more. He says more to it. It's like something you can't understand by stopping it in the middle and analyzing it. You have to flow with it, you know? And I think that's a really good kind of for viewing a movie, or like this movie especially, but in general, like when you're consuming something, you have to just experience it, you know, and then see, and just kind of like be open to experiencing it, and then see where you're at by the end. You
Absolutely.
know? But yeah, so this story has a lot of like politics going on. You have this like empire, and did you want to, before I like, am I jumping too far?
No, you're good.
You have this empire, an emperor, right? And then you have these like noble houses. So that's something that's kind of, there's some familiarity there with, because it is a somewhat of a feudal system.
Yes.
That very much mirrors like a feudal system in our, the history of our world. And so you have like apparently this very important resource on Arrakis, and there's a house that is in charge, it's like their fief, you know, that they're in charge of overseeing, and they have authority over managing it for the good of the empire. And this is the whole like initial, the inciting event is that the emperor has taken this house Harkonnen that have been able to, like for 80 years or something, mine the spice and get wealth off of it. And now it's being given to House Atreides. And so this is like shaking the empire, but there's like this foreboding sense to the whole thing.
Yeah, you can always tell throughout the whole beginning part that like there's something more than just the Atreides getting this planet.
Yeah.
You know, because obviously you would think, oh, well, the Emperor's getting her to this house, give it to this house should be happy. But none of them are happy about going to Dune as scenes. Mm-hmm. You know, obviously the Duke is like, you know, we'll do our part. We're going to say yes. But you can almost feel like they all kind of know this somehow is going to be a trap.
Yeah.
By someone. I'm assuming they're assuming by the Harkonnens.
Right.
Obviously it goes far deeper than that. Spoilers, by the way, for anybody who hasn't seen Dune.
You know, it reminds me so much of the beginning of A Song of Ice and Fire, where you have, because, you know, you have House Atreides, like, which I love the line that the Duke Leto says. It's basically like, it's all you need to know about who House Atreides is. Like, you meet Paul and you see him interact with his mother, but you don't really know the identity of House Atreides or anything like that until Duke Leto says, when the Emperor's like spokesperson comes and says, does the ceremonial thing that's, you know, will you agree to take over Arrakis? And Duke Leto says, we're House Atreides. There's no faith that we break. Mm-hmm. There's no call that we don't answer. You know, they're basically like, this very loyal, dependable house. And it just reminded me of the beginning of A Song of Ice and Fire. Where you have House Stark, who's been called on, the head of that house has been called on to be the hand of the king, and it's like they're all about honor and nobility and trustworthiness and loyalty and stuff. And so, but there's this sense of foreboding of what this means and the politics and how it could go wrong. And you know, but
we'll jump back to how it betrays that, like how House Atreides is portrayed. Not even just the house, but like the Duke itself. There's a great scene that I love where they're standing on this cliffside, looks like with graves.
Yeah.
And Paul is talking to his dad, Leto. Both wonderful actors, by the way. Timothée Chalamet and
Oscar Isaac.
Phenomenal. Both did a phenomenal job. But Paul is basically kind of talking about how he doesn't know how to be Duke, or if he even wants to be Duke,
right,
and all that stuff. And Leto, his dad, basically says, no matter what you decide, you'll always be what I needed you to be, which is my son.
Yeah.
And like that moment right there just hits home, like, not only is this just an honorable house, but like he's a good father.
Right.
You know, and it comes to find out, like, even Paul's mother, they're not married, but because she's, you know, this goes a little bit more into it, but she's as part of this sect of witches called the Bene Gesserit. They're very mysterious even throughout the whole movie. You still don't really know a whole lot about them. Mm-hmm. But then they kind of have almost this sort of magic called the Voice.
It's kind of like the Force. Because like it's like
almost like a Force persuasion.
Jedi mind trick kind of thing. Only, they can use their voice to...
But there's like obviously science behind it. It has to do with like, because she mentions
getting
Paul
the right
multiple
pitch.
times, like getting the right, you have the wrong pitch. It's very interesting. I know nothing about it. Mm-hmm. It doesn't explain it well in the movie, and I think that's the point. I don't think it's meant to be known.
Right.
But you know, and it's kind of like she's basically like his consort, Leto's consort.
Right. It's like the politics of it. Like they can't be married.
Yeah. Well, and she was like supposed to bear a daughter, for further along the Bene Gesserit, because it's all what you learn throughout the movie, and you learn it way more in the books, and you learn a lot more in the second movie. Are that the Bene Gesserit are very much political. They pretty much run the Imperium. They have witches. They have their own people in every house, basically, and it's all about mixing houses and like making all these different things,
bloodlines and stuff. Yeah.
And so they
can actually influence their like gender of the baby, like if they're getting pregnant.
And so she was supposed to birth a girl for Atreides. But of course, obviously she didn't. She has Paul. And what comes to find out is something about this prophecy figure type thing.
What is it that they call it?
The Kwisatz Haderach. The Kwisatz Haderach. And he's supposed to be the one who can bridge...
like time and space.
Yeah, because it has to do with...
present, future.
It has to do with being able to see into the future and the past. And like, I think the women can see a little bit... Like, they have snippets of, I think, the past or the whatever. But the Kwisatz Haderach is supposed to be, a boy who can see all of it, basically.
Right.
And so obviously that's a big part of it. But then also there's another point another point going back to Leto's character of like where he is talking with Jessica and he's like, I should have married you. Mm-hmm. You know, he obviously isn't with a wife. He's not like cheating on anybody. He's just with her. And it's kind of, you know, it just really shows the character of House Atreides and the Duke, which tells you right there that he's going to die.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a little bit of a grimdark element to the story, you know, because
for sure.
They're so the right thing to happen to Arrakis and like for the Fremen and like, you know, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but there is like a grim dark element to it where you see like it just seems like the way of the Empire, the way of the politics is so against like the like their way is foolish. You know, you're gonna get if you're noble, if you're honest, if you trust others, you're gonna get burned in this type of society or whatever of houses. And so
but then I almost feel that's part of the problem. Like that's why House Atreides is being targeted and taken out, because I think it's mentioned that they're gaining too much influence. Yeah,
the Emperor's a jealous man. The Baron of the House Harkonnen says whenever the his nephew, who's De Bautista, his nephew says it's like freaking out, like how can they take everything we built? And the Baron says, when is a gift not a gift? The Emperor's Atreides' voice is rising, and the Emperor is a jealous man. You know.
And that's your first hint, like, okay, this is not...
Like, he knows something's up.
Yeah.
And, like, so you're just... So they keep tipping your hat that, like, this isn't going to go well for House Atreides. You
we meet a couple other great characters. We meet Duncan Idaho, played by... oh, no. Why did I forget his name? He's...
Momoa. Jason Momoa. Yeah. Came to me.
Without a beard.
Yeah, looks weird without a beard.
Yes.
Too young.
Another great actor, perfect for the role. He is Paul's sword master, basically.
Right.
And so how also just go a little bit into like how the world this galaxy works is like there are guns and there are some of that, but they have these shields that seem like anything that moves at a fast pace, these shields stop.
They're basically Gungan shields.
Yes.
Gungan shield technology.
So if you move anything that moves at anything faster than a very slow moving knife won't pass through it. So obviously guns become almost obsolete at that time. So there is a lot of knife sword fighting that happens. And the point is to be able to get past the shields by getting past the defenses, but then moving slow enough to move past the shield.
Right.
Which is very interesting, but it's also a great way to make it feel like almost like a fantasy too.
Yeah.
Because then you're bringing back sword play.
Right.
You know.
Well, even the shields feel a little fantasy too. You know, it's very much like a space fantasy kind of feel.
And it brings in really cool action scenes. The fighting is very, very flashy, very fun to watch.
Well, then where you get that introduction to the shields is with his new sword, Gurney. Yeah, Gurney.
Who I think was almost like the second in command. Like he kind of like runs the army.
Right.
He's like the second behind the Duke.
I like what he says in that training scene whenever Paul says that he's not in the mood, you know, and Gurney goes bananas on him.
One thing I do remember is that scene is almost I'm pretty sure word for word in the book. The whole him you know, you shouldn't have your back towards the door. He says, I can recognize your footsteps anywhere, to the, you know, I'm just not in the mood. And then he goes into this whole monologue of there is no mood.
Like you either are in it or you're not. You fight when the need arises. Like,
and so the book does this a little bit better because the book definitely portrays. So jumping ahead a little bit, you know, the house is betrayed. Ultimately, I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit if you're okay with that.
Yeah, we can mention that.
House of Atreides is betrayed by Dr. Yui.
Right, and that's you find that out earlier in the book.
So in the book, it is way more fleshed out.
Right.
But in the book, there's also the sense of people are trying to betray House Atreides, even while they're still at home. And there's a moment, I'm pretty sure, in that scene when he's fighting Gurney, where Paul thinks, is Gurney trying to kill me right now? Because he is going really hard. Ultimately, it's not. And then, you know, we learn in the movie way later on, this character that we maybe see a few times in the movie is actually when he betrays him. Well, in the book, it hits hard and it makes way more sense. But, like, it's fleshed out more. Dr. Yui is actually a main character. He teaches Paul a lot of like lore of Arrakis, and he actually, there's a religion, I think it seems very similar to Christianity from what I remember. It might even be a Catholic book, Bible.
Oh yeah, there is
that
something
Dr. Yui actually gives to Paul and then teaches Paul stuff like that. So he's more of a main character, but it's also mentioned in the book a lot. The betrayal is better done in the book because Dr. Yui, it's mentioned multiple times, he has this specific training that is supposed to make him resistant to corruption.
Right. I was just listening to something talking about that.
I cannot remember. I think it's imperial conditioning.
Yeah, they're literally conditioned to be unable to harm.
Unable to betray is what it is.
Yeah.
And so when his betrayal actually does happen, which you learn about earlier on that it does, like you know he's going to betray, but when it does actually happen, it does hit harder and it hits the whole family harder because it's mentioned that he's not supposed to be able to do that.
Right.
And how it happens in the movie with it being his wife, that is how it happens in the book. It's about his wife. Yeah,
that his line in the movie, I mean, is very haunting. It's a very haunting line in this delivery. You know, they take her apart like a doll. You know, it's just like, oh, you know, like you don't even need to see it. Like the imagination is bad enough. You know, but that's how they break his conditioning.
Yes,
is that this like really horrific torture of his wife, which is horrible.
And then they go a little bit more into, so you know we have one that's with the Duke, and then there's another one that's with the Harkonnen. They're called Mentats. The one guy with the Duke is the
that have like his eyes go white.
Yes.
And he somehow is like figuring things out or something.
Yeah, they're called they're called Mentats, I think. Mm-hmm. And there's something weird about them, but in the book, specifically like Harkonnen's Mentat is like way more like ruthless and brutal.
Okay.
Than it portrays them in the movie, from what I remember.
But the Mentat, that's the guy that's like, they're all bald, but that's the guy that's like always with the
yes, and he's
the
like
Baron.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the betrayal is just, I definitely done better in the book, but it's a book. It has more time to flesh that out. The movie didn't do it. That wasn't the main part of the story, so I don't fault the movie for taking it out.
I mean, the movie covers so much ground, because by the middle of the movie, you know, it's like you've got Paul and we've got this advanced team that's going to Arrakis. They're going to try and like get things ready. And, you know, then Paul's getting ready to go, and he ends up there and he starts to learn about the Lisan al-Gaib and like the
Lisan al-Gaib.
He starts to learn about how the Bene Gesserit have been there, like putting these prophecies into their society and like slipping them in, stuff like that, for like hundreds of years, to kind of condition them to be looking for a Messiah that then they can introduce, essentially.
And this is where Herbert's kind of philosophy that he put into the books starts to really show in the movies and in the book. You know,
because his books were meant to be a cautionary tale, have like a really charismatic, like likable, like we need a savior, and that to be warned about that. We should mention also Paul, like because of his like heritage and stuff, he's having visions, he's having dreams and stuff.
Yeah, and this comes to the Bene Gesserit, where his mom has actually trained him in their ways, right, which is a point of contention between her and the mother lady, the like Bene Gesserit Truthsayer, I think is what they call her. Yeah. Where, because only women are part of the Bene Gesserit,
right?
Until you find the Kwisatz Haderach, which is the man, but they're not supposed to be trained. You know, you get the understanding they're not supposed, like men aren't supposed to be trained in their ways, but Paul's mom has been training him in the way of the voice, and then obviously like Josh has said, he's been having these visions of Arrakis and of this girl in Arrakis. And there's a scene where he is like tested by the mother, or by the Truthsayer. I don't fully understand it, because she says something about like an animal will gnaw its arm off, and
I think it's like, it's basically the idea of like, can you control yourself, or are you going to resort, but are you going to like go into this like primal animalistic reaction under pressure?
Yeah.
You know, like an animal would gnaw its hand off or whatever. And so if he takes his hand out of this box that's like extremely painful, then she's going to kill him, which is crazy.
It's a very interesting scene.
Yeah.
And you also get a scene that shows the power of the voice being used by someone who's a master at it.
Yeah, the way that he basically opens his eyes and he's kneeling before her, like he's completely unaware, that he's walking towards her or whatever.
You also get a really good scene with that too, with when they're at the table, Jessica and Paul. Jessica's Paul's mother.
Right.
And she says, she's pouring him a glass of water. She says, use the voice to make me give it to you, to kind of help him practice. And he does. And you see a moment where she grabs a glass, hands it to him, but then it cuts back and she hasn't moved yet. And it was like it's almost like
it's like a suggestion.
Like a suggestion.
Like a suggestive that
But if you're not doing it strong enough or well enough, then they can obviously push past that suggestion.
Right. Or if you're deaf.
You have to be able to hear it.
Yeah.
Which is a point later on.
Right. So yeah, the first half of the story, Paul is very much like kind of along for the ride. He's got to go to Arrakis in the timing he does because of how valuable he is to House Atreides. And then when he gets there, he's finding out that some people actually think that he might be some Messiah figure, and then he's in these, meetings with his father's like council and stuff like that. And, but very much along for the ride as things start to happen that just kind of progressively like show you how the odds are stacked against House Atreides.
Mm-hmm. As well as doing some world building too.
Right.
Of how Dune functions and works.
Right. Yeah. They did use that time well to cause they had the Liat Kynes, the judge of the change there that's like telling them things while they're like inspecting the equipment and stuff.
And she's
horrible.
Like been there for 20 years. She basically considers herself Fremen at that point.
Right.
And Fremen are the natives of Arrakis. Yeah, even when they're going looking at the dredger, the thing that dredges up the spice, and then you get the worm attack. It shows you how dangerous Dune is.
Right.
As well. And then once again it shows the goodness of Duke and House Atreides, where he takes the time, basically he goes to save the men on this ship that's about to be taken by this worm, the sandworm. And they're like, no, we're almost full on spice. We can't leave it. And he goes, I don't give a crap about the spice. I need you are you're men. I need you.
Right.
And he saves them.
Crams them all in. And then Paul's having more, when he gets a whiff of the spice, he's having more vivid. It's not just like a dream where he's asleep. It's like a waking vision, where he's seeing things that are happening. I'm trying to remember what his vision was there. Was it seeing Chani?
Yeah, it was seeing Chani. And I think there was a little bit of burning at one point, but I can't remember if that was there later on.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how he mentions it. He says, he even tells his mother, he goes, I was having a vision, but awake.
Yeah.
You kind of learn that he reacts with the spice in a certain way.
Right. It enhances like those latent abilities or whatever. So at this point of the story, you can see you really see the pressure mounting on Duke Leto, and because it's like the infrastructure has been just stripped so that there's very little for them to work with, and they've got to get production up, otherwise it's going to be bad for their house, where that's what they see. They see that as like the worst, that it's just like we can't manage this or whatever. Then you get, I don't know if it's before or after, but this is like where in the movie you start to get the hint about a traitor, is whenever you get the hunter seeker.
Yes.
There's a traitor, there's everything stacked against them. Even the judge of the change was like, they're trying to make their case to this judge, this Liat Kynes, that's supposed to be making sure the transition is like just or whatever, and she seems to want no part of doing anything about that. So it's all building towards this this moment where it's like Duke Leto realizes, like, we're out of time. He literally says it to Jessica. I thought we'd have more time. It's when they get back from that ornithopter.
Yeah, it's when he's in bed with Jessica.
Yeah, and they're
not in that way, but in like the just laying down in bed.
Yeah. Well, and they're talking about Paul because of Paul's vision.
Yes,
and he's like he's nervous about Paul's future and things like that, and he's talking to her about, no, I need to know if you'll protect Paul if things happen, not as his mother, but as a Bene Gesserit. Like, will the Bene Gesserit look after Paul? And that is like it. That's it. Like, that's like they go to bed and it all
everything
goes sideways.
So at this point you learn the Harkonnens are definitely preparing for an attack. Everything's kind of come to this point, but you also learn at this time that not only are the Harkonnens preparing for attack, but they're also being backed by the Emperor, who has this specific fighting force called the Sardaukar, and they're supposed to be the best fighting force in the world.
Right.
And this is also where you learn a bit more about Duncan, Idaho, where someone says, like, why do you need Sardaukar? And he goes, well, they got Duncan, Idaho, basically, who's trained most of these men.
Right.
So you kind of learn that the Atreides force is also supposed to be a force to be reckoned with. So you have so now we're learning not only is the betrayal by the Harkonnens, but it's also by the Emperor himself, which is drastic.
Right.
And so everyone must die, because if it comes out that the Emperor betrayed a house, the Emperor's supposed to be impartial to houses. All the other houses the minor houses would band together,
right,
and fight back a rebellion, basically. So yeah, you have this betrayal happen. Dr. Yui paralyzes Duke Leto, but basically says, I will do everything I can to get your son out, basically, but I need you to do something for me. And he replaces his tooth with a false one. It says, if you bite down and you breathe out, you'll release a poison, I'll kill everyone in the room. Basically his way of getting him to kill
the Baron,
Harkonnen. Paul and his mother are taken. Everyone in the house is killed. Duncan gets away. You learn later on that Gurney gets away.
Yeah, I don't think that you don't even learn in.
I think you learn in the second movie that
you just never see. You see Gurney leading the forces.
Yeah, but you don't see whatever happens. But you do see Duncan, Idaho get away. And then it cuts to Jessica and Paul in an ornithopter with 3 Harkonnen men.
Yeah.
And this is when you get to see some, her mouth is shut. It's she's got a gag in so that she can't use the voice. Paul's isn't, because obviously, men.
He's a man.
He's a man. You see Paul actually use the voice here, and it work
well enough.
Yeah. Well enough to get his mom to be able to use the voice.
He gets punched really hard first, though, because he doesn't get it first time.
Yes, and then you see his mom use the voice, and just it's brutal. And you see, this is kind of a moment you see, too, that Paul's still innocent. He's an innocent boy.
Right.
I don't know how old he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But he's innocent. He sees his mom
slitting throats.
And you could see it, like, shocks him. He's like, whoa.
She's, like, criticizing his pitch while slitting a guy's throat.
Yes.
You got this pitch wrong. Yeah. But,
and that's the downfall of House Atreides.
Yeah.
Well, mostly.
Pretty much. I mean, man, that whole scene, just like the bombs dropping, which is so interesting to see how they like slow down so that they can go through the shield.
Yep.
And then it's just complete mayhem, But I also love in that fight, in that battle, how you see that the House Atreides, honorable to the end, like they're just running into battle. They're just like, let's go. They don't even have their uniforms on. They don't have any armor.
Yep.
And of course Gurney's at the front leading them, and then you have the Atreides like guards that are up at where Leto is, and they're fighting, taking out Harkonnen, and then the Sardaukar land behind them. And then some of them turn to face the Sardaukar, and some of them turn to face, keep fighting the Harkonnen, which they get taken out pretty quickly by the Sardaukar. But just like, it's just such another thing where it's just like what's communicated is about who these houses are, just by the way they engage in this fight, But yeah, so this is like, that's halfway through the movie, then after then the rest of the movie, is you're getting some stuff about, well, we should mention Duke Leto, just like, he has at least this has that moment where he's able to,
yes,
use his final breath to take a bunch of Harkonnen with him.
And almost the Baron.
But the Baron was like very cleverly has a shield, puts his shield up before he leans in.
I don't know if that did anything though. I don't know exactly how he gets away. I don't think it was the shield though.
I thought the shield helped it not affect him as much, maybe, but maybe not. But like he flies up to like the corner of the room or whatever. Yeah,
long story short, the Duke does end up biting the tooth, breathing the poison out, kills everyone in the room. The Baron ends up living, but he's very hurt.
Right. He has to like be in like back to his ugly cousin for the rest of his life, like this dark black liquid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, beyond that, I mean, at this point now, it's you the rest of the movie is pretty much about we'll go through some things pretty quickly, but like Jessica and Paul find themselves in the desert. They end up, there's a good scene in there I want to mention where they're in the tent and they're spicing the tent, and Paul has another one of those weird visions.
Spicing it up.
But this time his vision is definitely of like war mayhem, and he basically is like coming to the conclusion that like there can be war across the entire galaxy or universe or whatever this is.
Yeah. He's seeing like the potential, like future, like his potential future.
And you learn in this kind of, and I think really in the second movie, that this is something that he fears. He knows if he does a specific thing that it can lead to this. And basically it's like a jihad.
Yeah.
A religious war across the galaxy with him as their figurehead. Right. Which once again, kind of Herbert's point of like, be careful about your Messiah figures and stuff like that.
Yeah. Right.
And so and we'll get into it when we get into the second movie, but Paul is very much against this, doesn't want it, initially. But that's a good scene there. Then with Jessica, his mom trying to be like, talk to me. What can I do? What's going on? Type of thing.
Right.
Yeah. Then they get out. Duncan finds them, and they kind of escape. They meet up with some Fremen
and the Liet Kynes again.
Liet Kynes.
Yeah, and but you start to see Paul kind of. It's like there's this tension, which is much more pronounced in the second movie, but you start to see the beginning of this with Paul, where it's like he doesn't want that identity, he doesn't want the outcome that he's afraid is going to happen, but at the same time, he is still House Atreides, and he's still got his mom that he needs to take care of, and so he is like starting to flirt with the idea of using this, because he's mentioning to Liet Kynes in there about Releasing Al Gaib and about her dream and that he can make it happen and stuff like that. So he's starting to, kind of play with the idea, of like what that means and how he could use it. You have a great scene. He saw earlier in the movie, he had a dream about Duncan Idaho dying in battle, and while that's happening, the Sardaukar like get their location or whatever, and Duncan Idaho has like a amazing last stand against the Sardaukar.
Yeah, an awesome last stand.
I mean, I just love it so much. Like he's at one point you think he's dead, and then he jumps up,
just pops back up,
and just it just goes berserk on all of them.
And really shows his prowess as a fighter, because it's mentioned multiple times in the movie how skilled the Sardaukar are, and he just single-handedly destroys like 10 of them.
17 yeah. But it all kind of culminates. You get an awesome some good world building of like having they have to cross the sand in this weird way. which is very interesting.
The worms play a very important part
yeah,
in this world and in the story. It becomes more prevalent in the second movie.
Right. But it all builds to this final kind of confrontation. He starts having these what starts coming into his visions at a certain point is he sees this man, this Fremen man, who's telling him he'll show him the ways of the desert, and he sees that man and Stilgar and some other Fremen, like, they run into them, and basically they're going to kill him and take their water.
Yeah,
like shrink wrap them and take their water, and but Stilgar wants to protect them. Long story short, but this fighter Janice, who he's been having visions about as his friend, won't have it. He's like, no, I think that I'm maybe stronger than Stilgar, who just got bested by the woman, and so, I want to test that. He invokes some Fremen, like, ritual duel. Yeah. So,
and this is an important part for Paul, as he ends up being, because the mother is technically the one who took down Stilgar, so he's like challenging her, but then someone says, like, you can't challenge her, and he says, well, I'll challenge her champion.
Right.
And so Paul steps forward. And up until this point, you never really see Paul fight. You saw him fight with Gurney, but you also saw Gurney kind of whip him. So that, we and throughout most of this movie, Paul has been seen kind of as this more innocent younger boy who's kind of thrust into all this. And so you see this kind of coming up, this battle to the death with this Fremen. Obviously, everyone, he meets Chani at this point too, the girl, and she even tells him, like, here, use my knife, it'll be a good death.
Right.
Like, you're gonna die.
Yeah.
And he has this little, like, almost visual, like, another one of these, like, visions voice, and he basically says, like, you need to take a life and become the Kwisatz Haderach. Yeah,
it's like the voice of the Bene Gesserit, almost.
And so he goes to fight, and you see immediately how quickly Paul overtakes this guy. Mm-hmm. But he won't kill him. He tells him to yield.
He's never had to kill someone.
He's never had to kill someone before. Now, he's very powerful. He's very strong. He's very fast. He's very skilled in the knife and the blade. And so, multiple times he gets him into this submission. And then even Stilgar goes,
is he playing with him?
Why is he playing with him? Yeah. Like, this is basically just rude. And then his mother goes, he's never taken a life before. Mm. Eventually he ends up killing him. Wins the duel. Mm. And they're going to be taken to the Sietch. Where all the Fremen stay, and now they're that's basically where the movie ends.
Yeah.
And for those wondering, that's basically halfway through the book.
Right. Yeah. I loved this when I first saw it in the theaters. I just loved it. It was just such a patient, like, interchange. Like, you've got this huge movie, you've got these house politics and the huge battles and explosions and so many people being betrayed and dying and stuff, and then you just have this in the random spot in the desert. Mm-hmm. They run into this small group of Fremen, and this one Fremen just won't let it go. Mm-hmm. And Paul, and it's like, and Paul is kind of having this, like, realizing this is a kind of a turning point too. Like, he's seeing things, and this guy's been in his vision, so he knows this is a really critical decision, but it's just such a patient scene, and the fight and everything, and takes its time. I just remember really appreciating that in the theater, as a place to end it, but yeah, so that's part 1 of Dune.
Part 1 of Dune. Great movie. If you haven't seen it, give it a watch.
Yeah.
Would definitely recommend. It's a good 2 hours, 20 minutes, I think, 2.5 hours.
Yeah, it's 2.5 hours, yeah.
But it doesn't, at least the second time watching it for sure, I don't remember the first time, but the second time watching it did not feel like 2.5 hours. It went by really fast.
Yeah, same here.
I really enjoyed watching it.
Well, the second one's like 3 hours or more.
The second one is phenomenal. I can't wait to rewatch that and get into it.
Yeah.
Because it is really, really good. That's when you start getting really into, like, a lot of the philosophy behind it. And,
right. Yeah.
It gets pretty dark.
The whole, like, Messiah prophecy tension really builds. Yeah, I liked it. So we'll talk about it next time on the Bridge of Two podcast. But first, we must say that this has been the Bridge of Two podcast.
a far, far away bridge. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Till
God
next
bless.
time.
Lisa Nagaib.
Lisa Nagaib. Lisa Nagaib.